talk about object shorthand and object plus array destructuring. Right. The reason why I want to talk about that, this is quite advanced stuff, but the reason why I want to talk about it is because I've seen that some of you are using it, but you don't know what you are doing, right? So I would like to show you what's happening under the hood because that will help you to understand your own code. So first of all, object shorthand. I've seen some of you doing this. This.set state shows. Most of you have that line of code in somewhere, right? But what that means? That's a funny structure. This is quite new. Yep.
You can validate shows, the colon shows.
Yep, correct. Christian is right, once again. So this is the shorthand of that. But to make that work, look, well, not sure you can see anything, but this is the key of the object, which is yellow, but this is a variable, which is white. So to make that work, you need to do what? Correct, thank you, Aaron. You need to declare a variable called shows equals whatever. So then, if you have that here, right? So this line is translated into that line, which means A, assign to the shows object a variable called shows. That's why, if I do that, will it work? Why not? Exactly. That won't work, right? That's why you struggle, some of you struggle with this. So this is okay, you use it, it's a good thing about modern JavaScript, but please understand what's happening under the hood, right? Because otherwise it's very confusing. Any question?
So literally just storing the A1 into...
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, this is the same, obviously, as doing that, right? Make sense? Right. So that's the first thing, object shorthand. But now I would like to talk about object destructuring and array destructuring, which is a similar principle. So look, if we got an array of characters, right, as usual, and then I want to assign the first element of the array to one variable and the second element of the array to another variable. How would you do it?
Let R1
Character 1 equals
characters dot index 0.
right? And then what else? With a new line now, right? And the same, yeah. I mean that's not very impressive, right? But yeah, but that should work, right? So let's see if it makes any sense, right? So if I do, let's add a console log here. So the characters are, I'm going to use string literals. You don't know, you know how to use them already. All right. We can do that. Characters 1 and then character 2, right? So if we do that, it works, fine. But with modern JavaScript, we can simplify this structure a bit. Look at how awesome this is. You can do that. You can do let open and close square brackets, character 1, comma, character 2 equals characters. We don't need that. This is mind-blowing.
Alright.
But it works. Right? Look at the mapping. It's going on under the hood. So
Donald's going into 1.
exactly. So it will inspect the characters array, and then it will say, hey, the first element you find, assign it to this variable. The second element you find, assign it to this variable, right? And what happens if we got a third element?
Well, at the moment it won't. If it won't, it'll just be ignored.
It will be ignored. Chris is right. I mean, that's fine, right? So it will start from the left, right? So the first result here, the second result there. As we don't have any other assignment, then it will be just ignored, right? And what happens if we got just one?
Undefined variable.
Exactly. Christian is right. If we just one, the first one is satisfied, but the second one there is nothing, right? It's just undefined. Right? This is modern JavaScript.
So why would you sort of use that?
Yeah, there is a
Yeah.
let me go to object structuring. There are some scenarios where this is very powerful. I'll show you. Let me complete the test. So this is about array structuring, but then we got object structuring, which is a similar principle. So I'm going to transform the array into an object. So character, and then we got first name, Donald, last name, whatever, then, right? So if we do that, again, how do we create variables out of this? So we could do the same thing, right? Let first name equals character dot first name, right? I mean, you know that already. I hope you know that already. Last name. I'm just doing literally the same thing, right? Character is first name, last name, and wait. Right, so yeah, if we run this example, yep, it works. We know that. But then we can also destructure the object. So we can do something quite nice. So if we can replace that into one line, and we can say, hey guy, this is not an array, this is an object. So instead of surrounding it with square brackets, we need to use curly brackets. Correct. And then we do first name, last name, and wait, equals character. Still works. You see?
The order is, you need the order.
The order, that's a good question.
Does it look for first name or?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Could you use it if you wanted to change it up, just put the brackets in a number?
Wait a minute.
But it will still match the.
If we do that, will it make any difference?
No. Yes.
Yes, no, yes, no. Why?
The first question.
The first.
First is Donald. Second, the first name going to be Trump.
But why the first? Because I wrote it first, you mean, right?
Because it looks for the key.
Does it look for the key or for the order? That's the question.
No.
For the order. For the key.
I think it's the order.
Right. The order. Right. Let's see what happened, and I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay, fine.
So that could display, no, it's not both for sure, it's either one or the other. So they could display Donald and Trump or Trump or Donald, right? Look, it didn't change. This is important. With JavaScript, we cannot sort object properties. It doesn't mind, it doesn't care if we do that and that. There is no concept of object sorting, right? There is no concept, that doesn't exist. Depending on the browsers will rearrange the properties. So don't trust the order of the properties. Modern browsers, they tend to follow alphabetical order. So in other words, if I do that, I believe that if I display character, look, you saw what happened? So even though I explicitly said that the first property was the last name, in reality, Chrome has changed the order, following alphabetical criteria, right? So don't trust the order of the properties. In other words, this is matching the key, not the order, right? So it doesn't matter the order. I can move the weight at the beginning of the expression, and it will still work, right? Exactly. But then the question is, what happens if, again, I do that? Instead of weight, I point to the age. Will it work? Why? Exactly. Now we got something interesting, because in here we got an error, right? In this particular case, we got an error because this is here, right? But let me get rid of it and try again. Yeah, that's literally the same thing we got with arrays. If that property is not available on the object, it's just undefined, doesn't exist, right? Any question? So someone asked before, when is this any useful, right? I'll tell you two examples. One of them probably is too early because it talks about promises. We haven't talked about promises. Some of you already started to work with them, like you, Justin, right? So I'm not going to go into that now. But I would like to talk about objects, because definitely that's something that could be useful for you. So you know that I'm going to remove everything for simplicity reasons. So you got the state, right? And in your state you got, you may have that title. I'm thinking about a TV show, right? You got the ID, and then you got the synopsis, and then you got, yeah, lots of things, right? So for that particular case, if you want to assign that to variables, that could be a good example, right? So you could do let title ID synopsis equals state, right? So then you don't need to keep typing this.state.title, this.state, which is very tiny, right? You can simplify. Also, I'm sure if you create, you remember how to create a stateless component, something that Dave explained yesterday. You remember that? We talked about that yesterday, right? So this is also a good example, a really, really good. This doesn't work because this is JSX. I don't have, this is not Visual Studio, so the parser is not ready. But that's fine, ignore the errors. I'm not going to run that. But this is a good example of when object structuring will be really useful. Because again, you can imagine that props will have the title, the ID, synopsis, alt, blah, 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 hundreds of properties, right? So in reality, look at how sexy this is. I can replace props with ID, title, alt, image, whatever. That's it. Oh. In other words, to make it even more simple, so I do function hello, and then that's a user. So then we can do return hello user dot first name, user dot last name, right? So then if I do hello, and then I pass my user, which is first name Boris, and then last name whatever. So if we do that, right, that should work, right? It works, but then following the same pattern, we can destructure the variable at the time that it gets passed as an argument to the function. So we can replace user with curly brackets, first name, last name. So if we do that, user is not defined because obviously we need to replace it here as well, right? And it works. Right? This is very elegant because if we have an object and we have to type object.foo, object.blah, object, right? This is very boilerplating. So if we do that, we are replacing the object with two variables, first name and last name. Does it make sense? Right. This is quite new. This is really powerful. I recommend you to explore it because if you understand that, yeah, the employer may be quite positively surprised. So it's definitely something that worth to have a look.
Question for
Yep.
object. Sometimes I see people using new before object to initialize it.
Yeah, but that's a separate thing. Yeah, that's.
Object, when should we?
Yeah, this is to create a new instance of the object. But yeah, we'll talk about that later. Any question? No? Cool. Thank you, guys.